Imagine a melody so universally profound, so deeply embedded in the human consciousness, that it transcends language, borders, and generations, becoming the very soundtrack of our collective existence. This is not a hyperbolic exaggeration, but the measurable reality of a man who woke up from a dream with an entire orchestral composition fully formed in his head, only to eventually craft the most successful and influential catalogue of popular music in human history. He transformed the humble, four-stringed bass guitar into a melodic lead instrument, pioneered the concept of the promotional music video, and turned stadium rock into a global cultural phenomenon. His journey from the soot-stained, working-class streets of post-war Liverpool to the absolute zenith of global royalty and knighthood is a masterclass in relentless creativity, emotional resilience, and the sheer, unadulterated power of a perfectly constructed pop song. To understand his legacy is to understand the very DNA of modern popular culture, a landscape forever altered by a left-handed boy who simply refused to stop listening to the music in his head. The genesis of this unparalleled musical journey began in the summer of 1942 in the bustling, working-class city of Liverpool, England. Born James Paul McCartney into a family deeply rooted in the local Catholic community, his early environment was steeped in music. His father, a former semi-professional musician who had led a dance band in his youth, filled their modest home with the sounds of jazz, ragtime, and traditional pop. This early exposure instilled in the young boy a profound appreciation for melody and musical structure. However, his idyllic childhood was abruptly shattered by a profound personal tragedy. When he was just 14 years old, his mother passed away from an embolism following a mastectomy. This devastating loss left an indelible mark on his emotional landscape, forging a deep well of empathy and melancholy that would later become the emotional bedrock of his most enduring and poignant songwriting. The grief of losing his mother would eventually find its way into some of the most universally comforting anthems of the 20th century, serving as a testament to his ability to transmute personal sorrow into global solace. The trajectory of his life, and indeed the history of global popular culture, shifted forever on a mild summer afternoon in 1957. While attending a garden fete at a local church in Woolton, he was introduced to a slightly older, fiercely charismatic, and equally music-obsessed teenager named John Lennon. The two instantly recognized a kindred spirit in each other, bonding over their shared love for American rock and roll and their mutual desire to create it. They began writing songs together, sitting face-to-face with their acoustic guitars, challenging and pushing each other to new heights of creativity. This legendary partnership eventually evolved into the core of a band that would conquer the world. Alongside George Harrison and Ringo Starr, they formed the ultimate musical collective. Their early years were defined by grueling, exhausting residencies in the gritty, neon-lit clubs of Hamburg, Germany, where they honed their musical chops, developed their tight, telepathic stage presence, and absorbed a vast repertoire of rock and roll history. When they finally returned to England and captured the attention of a visionary manager, the resulting explosion of mass hysteria fundamentally altered the cultural landscape, creating a level of global adoration that had never been seen before in human history. Within this legendary quartet, he quickly emerged as the primary melodic architect, possessing an uncanny, almost supernatural ability to craft flawless, unforgettable pop hooks. While his partner brought a raw, edgy, and introspective lyricism, he provided the soaring, optimistic, and universally appealing melodies that made the music instantly accessible to millions. He was also the driving force behind the band's relentless push for studio innovation. Dissatisfied with the limitations of live performance, he championed the use of the recording studio as an instrument in itself. He conceptualized and drove the creation of the most ambitious and influential albums in the history of recorded music, pushing the boundaries of orchestral arrangement, tape looping, and psychedelic experimentation. Furthermore, he completely revolutionized the role of the bass guitar. Refusing to merely plod along with the root notes of the chord progression, he treated the bass as a melodic lead instrument, weaving intricate, syncopated countermelodies that gave the music a propulsive, dancing energy. His influence extended beyond just the music. He was the primary conceptualizer of the visual identity, pioneering the use of promotional films to reach global audiences, and designing the iconic, groundbreaking album covers that turned record sleeves into high art. However, the immense pressure of global superstardom, combined with deep business disagreements and the tragic death of their beloved manager, eventually fractured the band. The dissolution of the group in the early 1970s was a highly publicized, deeply painful process that left him feeling isolated, creatively adrift, and heavily scrutinized by a press eager to blame him for the collapse. Battling severe depression and the profound loss of his musical family, he retreated to his farm in Scotland with his new wife, a passionate and fiercely loyal American photographer. It was here, surrounded by the rural tranquility and his new family, that he found his creative voice once again. He formed a new band, recruiting his wife and her children, and embarked on a massive, globe-trotting stadium tour that redefined the scale of live rock music. This new iteration of his career was marked by a return to his rock and roll roots, producing a string of massive, chart-topping hits that proved his melodic genius was far from extinguished. He successfully navigated the treacherous transition from a member of the world's biggest band to a standalone global superstar, proving that his talent was not merely a product of his famous collaborators, but an innate, inexhaustible force of nature. As the decades progressed, he continually reinvented himself, refusing to be confined by the nostalgic expectations of his past. He collaborated with the biggest pop and rhythm and blues icons of the era, co-writing some of the most successful crossover hits of the 1980s, and seamlessly blending his melodic sensibilities with contemporary production styles. Beyond the realm of popular music, he ventured into the highly intimidating world of classical composition, premiering large-scale orchestral and choral works that, while receiving mixed reviews from classical purists, demonstrated his boundless creative curiosity and his refusal to be pigeonholed. He also became a prolific painter, an avid advocate for animal rights and vegetarianism, and a dedicated philanthropist, using his immense platform to champion causes he believed in, from landmine clearance to music education. His personal life, however, was not without its profound tragedies. The devastating loss of his wife to cancer in the late 1990s plunged him into a deep, paralyzing grief. Yet, true to his resilient nature, he channeled this profound sorrow into a deeply moving and critically acclaimed solo album, a raw, acoustic exploration of loss and mourning that resonated with anyone who had ever experienced the pain of saying goodbye. Entering his 8th decade, an age when most of his contemporaries had long since retired from the grueling demands of live performance, he continued to embark on massive, multi-year global stadium tours. His live shows became legendary, not just for their sheer stamina and vocal prowess, but for their meticulous, joyous celebration of his unparalleled catalogue. He finally resolved the decades-long legal and emotional complexities regarding the ownership of his early songwriting catalogue, securing his financial and creative legacy for future generations. In a stunning final act of technological and artistic synthesis, he embraced modern artificial intelligence to isolate and restore a decades-old, degraded vocal and piano recording, completing a song that had been deemed impossible to finish. This remarkable achievement bridged the gap between the analog past and the digital future, allowing the surviving members of his legendary band to reunite one last time in the digital ether. The legacy of this extraordinary artist is permanently etched into the very fabric of human culture. He is the ultimate melodist, a man who understood that a perfectly constructed song could heal, unite, and elevate the human spirit in ways that words alone never could. From the damp, echoing halls of post-war Liverpool to the most prestigious concert stages on the planet, his journey is a testament to the enduring power of optimism, the necessity of hard work, and the beautiful, chaotic magic of musical collaboration. He did not just participate in the cultural revolution of the 20th century, he was its chief architect, providing the soundtrack for the hopes, dreams, and heartbreaks of billions. As long as there are voices to sing and ears to listen, his melodies will continue to echo through the corridors of time, a timeless reminder of the profound, transformative power of a simple, beautiful tune.